I've been doxxed and my family has been threatened. Some other LARP tubers are also under attack. I'm not gonna ask you to make another video with more context, but it would be nice. Some of your fans have taken it too far. Okay, am I... What is it? Like, you wanted me to find more context because you thought it makes you look better. It makes you look a lot worse, man.
Since my last video, huge YouTuber club Penguinz0 is being accused of doxing and getting his fans to send death threats to a YouTuber who roleplays as a grieving dad's dead son. All because Penguinz0 made a video criticizing the YouTuber for role-playing as a grieving dad's dead son. But it gets even worse because you even have people blaming Technoblade's dad and calling him selfish for not giving a seal of approval to the YouTuber who role-plays as his son. But let's begin, because I honestly don't understand how Critical is somehow receiving a lot of hate.
I'm very surprised that this has even been, like, a big deal with the way I feel on it.
For delivering, in my opinion, possibly one of his coldest takes. But to give you some quick, crucial context about this whole situation, this whole drama involves a huge beloved YouTuber by the name of Technoblade, who sadly passed away from cancer 4 years ago. Now, YouTuber Technoblade was a huge part of a lot of people's childhoods. And even though I wasn't personally tapped in with Technoblade's YouTube content, since I was out there watching PewDiePie, Markiplier, KSI instead, even I learned to appreciate Technoblade not only for his entertaining personality, but also for his extremely good mechanical skills in Minecraft. When I got introduced to Technoblade's content by watching XQC, one of my favorite streamers, getting demolished by him during Minecraft PvP tournaments all the time. You're so bad! You're so... You know your booty cheeks at the video game when you call the person who keeps beating you trash. Smash like and subscribe if you agree. But about a month ago, a YouTuber by the name of Striker decided to make a new channel on YouTube called Technolarp, where he would start role-playing as Technoblade and started pretty much wearing his skin as a suit. Now, as Striker started getting a lot of subscribers on this new Technolarp channel, he eventually decided to try to get in touch with Technoblade's dad by emailing him multiple times to ask him for his seal of approval to keep role-playing as his dead son. Now, Technolarp defenders would argue that this is irrefutable proof that Technolarp was being as respectful as possible because he went ahead and went out of his way to reach out to Technoblade's dad to ask him for permission to keep making content. But here's the thing, guys. One could also argue that if he truly meant to be as respectful as possible, then he would have reached out to Technoblade's dad before making the content in the first place, and before role-playing as his dead son. But I digress. Now, despite trying to get in touch with Technoblade's dad multiple times by emailing him, he was left unseen and was ultimately met with silence. Now, I like to believe that my subscribers are mentally healthy, employed young adults with common sense. And I know that anyone with common sense will agree when I say that silence doesn't equate to consent, and it certainly doesn't mean yes. But despite Technoblade's dad never giving him his seal of approval, he kept making content and he kept role-playing as his son, because he somehow came to the conclusion that even though he never got permission, Technodad never gave him a firm no. And nobody knew what Technodad's true thoughts on this whole ordeal were, according to him. I think it's quite clear as to why Technodad never gave him a reply initially. I mean, imagine burying your own child as a parent, which is something that no parent should ever have to go through, just to randomly receive an email from a random person on the internet asking for your permission to keep role-playing as your dead son on YouTube. At the very least, that should make any parent in that unfortunate circumstance uncomfortable as fuck. And if you want me to be blunt, I think that the initial silence from Technodad was the loudest answer he could have given to Technolarp. That was essentially him saying, "Ooh, that email just made me feel uneasy, and honestly, I don't even want to deal with this in the first place." But nevertheless, Technolarp somehow took that silence as a go-ahead, so he ultimately continued to make content while role-playing as Technoblade. I mean, this is kind of crazy if you think about it. I mean, this is the equivalent of being in high school, DMing your high school crush and saying, "Hey, can I come to your house and do something sus with you?" Just for her to leave you unseen. I mean, are you going to be like, "Oh, well, she didn't say no, so she definitely wants me to go to her house"? Obviously not! But as Technolarp kept growing in popularity, more of his fans started to pressure Technodad to issue a statement and to give his seal of approval to Technolarp. And thanks to the rising pressure, Technoblade's dad eventually issued a statement. But I'm sorry guys, but I just gotta say really quick that I feel horrible for Technodad. I mean, the fact that he was essentially forced to interact with this nightmare fuel of a situation, even though he clearly wanted nothing to do with this situation in the first place, which is why he never replied to Technolarp initially. I don't know, man. I feel for him. But even in Technoblade's dad's own statement, it's quite clear that he feels uneasy about this whole situation. I mean, the fact that he's been avoiding addressing the situation, the fact that he confirms that Technolarp has reached out to him multiple times just for him to say that he doesn't know what to say to Technolarp, and finally, the fact that he concludes by saying that he feels inconclusive about this whole thing should make it quite clear that you should probably hold off and stop role-playing as his dead son. But Technoblade's statement wasn't enough for Technolarp, because to him, it wasn't a clear no. And to make it seem like he was respectful towards Technoblade's dad, he went ahead and said stuff like, I only answer to Technoblade's dad. If he says no, I'll delete my channel. Now at face value, you might think that he's being extremely respectful here towards not only Technoblade, but also Technoblade's dad. But I would argue that it's the complete opposite instead. Because why the fuck are you once again putting all the pressure on Technoblade's dad, who has made it quite clear that he wants nothing to do with this whole mess and wants nothing to do with someone who's impersonating his son and pretty much replacing his son on YouTube. I've even seen people coping by saying that, oh, Technolarp is just paying tribute to Technoblade, and I couldn't disagree more. Paying tribute is making fan art for Technoblade, or making a one-time video where you reminisce about the good memories that Technoblade gave you, or maybe, perhaps, roleplay as Technoblade as a one-time funny skit. It's definitely not making a brand new channel where you pretty much start copy-pasting Technoblade's whole brand, and going as far as to start collaborating with Technoblade's real friends on YouTube.
I actually switched to my axe on accident, and so...
I'm not gonna lie, but that whole collab video felt uncanny. The fact that Skeppy was calling the LARPer Techno, which is what he used to call Technoblade. I mean, I hate to say this again, but imagine being Technoblade's dad and being pressured and being forced to pretty much interact with this kind of uncanny content and being pressured to give your seal of approval to Technolarp. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to understand why Technoblade's dad was uncomfortable about this whole situation, why he stayed quiet, and why he avoided addressing this whole mess in the first place for so long. I mean, bro, I'm gonna be honest, but this kind of content must be nightmare fuel for Technoblade's dad. And I genuinely believe that this is what prompted Penguinz0 to make a video on Technolarp. But it gets even worse, because you even have multiple people who actually knew Technoblade, who were actually friends with him, who expressed their clear discomfort about this whole situation on Twitter. For example, Tubo was out there saying, is it safe to say that I'm really not sure I'm a fan of this whole LARP account trend thing? It just feels off. Where Sneaksnag, a good friend of Technoblade, replied with, you're not a fan of a dude impersonating our dead friend? If Technoblade's own dad being quiet and trying his best to avoid this whole mess wasn't enough to convince you that maybe LARPing as Technoblade wasn't the best thing to do, then surely Technoblade's own friends expressing their clear discomfort should make it clear. Well, not quite. Because when someone told Technolarp on his own Discord server that many of Technoblade's friends don't approve of what he's doing, Technolarp replied with, I see. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, and you know what? They don't want to watch me, they don't have to watch my content. I don't know, guys, despite all of this clear feedback from not only Technoblade's own dad, who showed his clear discomfort about this whole situation, but also from Technoblade's own friends, who clearly felt uneasy about a random guy on the internet roleplaying as their dead friend, Technolarp decided to keep coping by saying that, oh, Technoblade's dad never said no, so I'm gonna keep roleplaying as his son unless he says I shouldn't do that, because I only answer to him.
Technoblade's father has responded, and it feels pretty obvious that his father is just in a really uncomfortable, awkward spot with this whole thing. So first and foremost, Technolarp does openly state that he never got permission from the family to do this. I never got permission, but Technodad has seen me and has not had any intent to stop me as of the moment. We don't know his thoughts yet. Let's give him some time to figure out if he likes it or not. I don't love that statement from Technolarp because he's apparently reached out multiple times to talk to Technodad about it, to get his feelings on it, and hasn't received any response, so he's taken that silence as like a thumbs up to keep doing it.
Now, anyone who knows anything about Technoblade knows that he was a troll who loved to banter, which prompted a lot of Technolarp supporters to cope by saying that, oh, Technoblade would love what Technolarp is doing. He would laugh at what he's doing. But here's the reality of things, guys. First things first, nobody can speak for the dead. But most importantly, Technoblade loved his dad. And guess what, guys? Everybody's got a priority list inside of their head. And I can guarantee right now that Technoblade's priority at the top was his family, and his priority at the bottom is this random guy on the internet role-playing as him. But by taking into account this sound reasoning, I know we can all agree when I say that Technoblade would want this whole thing to be shut down right off the bat because he wouldn't want his dad to be subjected to this uncanny nightmare fuel of a situation, which has clearly made him extremely uncomfortable. Smash like and subscribe if you agree. I don't know, guys. I mean, to me, it's just common sense, right? I mean, what grieving parent would want to see a random guy on the internet roleplay as their deceased son? Nobody! But even if we look at Technoblade's clear track record from back when he was alive, it still doesn't look good for Technolarp. Technoblade made it quite clear in the past that he didn't like seeing people make money out of his brand. And here's where things get absolutely insane, guys. After Critical had uploaded his video on Technolarp decided to stream snipe and confront Penguinz0 during one of his streams, where he told Critical that he was lacking context and that with proper context he would come to understand where Technolarp was coming from, and that he should probably make a second video to rectify his mistakes.
I'm not gonna ask you to make another video with more context, but it would be nice. Some of your fans have taken it too far.
But spoiler alert, guys! The added context made Critical respect Technolarp even less.
Like, you wanted me to find more context because you thought it makes you look better. It makes you look a lot worse, man.
Because Critical people was initially under the impression that Technolarp was making zero money out of his channel, and at the very least, all of his earnings were going to charity.
He is saying that he's in the process of deciding where the money that he's earned from this Technoblade LARPing is going to go, like to what charity. Now, of course, you can argue, well, there is no self-interest here because he's donating the money to charity, apparently.
Well, turns out that this wasn't the full picture.
In his streams, he also has a personal donation link as well, which is weird not to mention. Is that true, Technolarp? I haven't seen the streams. Do you have one for charity and one for yourself, then? I wrote that a while back when I made a community vote. Should have cleared it out. Haven't made money off ads. Is there 2 donation links in your stream, though? I didn't see anything on that. Yes, I have a personal one that I barely ever mention that people can optionally donate to. I feel like it's pretty obvious why you would barely mention that, man, considering a big part of the identity is that it was for a positive cause, which is something I highlighted too, about how I thought, and your community thought, you were donating all of this to charity. So you do have a personal donation through there as well? As Technolarp? I think it's pretty clear why you wouldn't mention that, because that's a very different look.
Yeah, guys, I don't think the proper context is helping, and you know what? The whole cope about how Technoblade would love what Technolarp is doing, I think we can put that cope to rest now. And then Technolarp started to fuel the narrative that Critical's fans got him doxed.
I've been doxed and my family has been threatened. Some other LARP tubers are also under attack. Well, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that. You were reasonable but missed some context that painted me bad. I know you meant well.
This narrative has unfortunately pushed a lot of his fans to blame Critical for doxing him. And that just doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, from day one, Critical has always made videos criticizing people who do things that suck. His video on Technolarp is no different whatsoever, and it's insane to see that there are so many people blaming Penguinz0 just because he made a video on this situation. Now listen up, guys, and prepare the Pikachu face, because what I'm about to say next is about to shock nobody with common sense. Thanks to the immense pressure by Technolarp and his community that Technoblade's dad was forced to face, yesterday, Technodad decided to issue a final statement regarding the matter. He is asking for this whole LARPing thing to please stop and for the persona in question to cease. No blessing or permission for this or for any similar persona now or in the future has been given. Now get your Pikachu faces out of the way, guys, because like I said, nobody with common sense should be surprised about this statement. Like, bruh, imagine if PewDiePie died and some random dude on the internet started emailing his wife and saying, "Hey, can I roleplay as your dead husband?" Like, what? Anybody should be able to see how weird this is. I've even seen people in Critical's comment section shifting the goalposts, and they're now blaming the dad for ruining something that they found entertaining. I'm not gonna give these weirdos the time of day, because these people are not fans of anyone. They're just mentally ill. But don't get it twisted, guys, because people will lead you to believe that this is a happy ending. It's time to move on. I mean, even Technolarp issued a final response and said that he's relieved about this whole thing finally being over. Brother, what do you mean you're relieved? It's Technoblade's dad who should be relieved about not having to deal with your pressure anymore. Brother's saying he's relieved as if he didn't have the choice to stop whenever he wanted, to stop when Technoblade's friends made it clear that they felt uncomfortable, and when Technoblade's own dad never gave him his seal of approval. But I'm crashing out because people are buying this BS. Now, Technolarp has made it clear that he's going to rebrand his Technolarp channel into a new identity. Now, you might think that this is a happy ending, but no, it's really not if you think about it. I think we can all agree that this whole role-playing of someone's deceased son should have never happened in the first place, and he should have waited for the dad's seal of approval before making this kind of content in the first place, instead of taking his silence as a yes. So why is it that he gets to walk away with all of these subscribers, all of this viewership that he gained from exploiting someone's deceased son's branding, and gets to keep that huge, gigantic buff as he rebrands to his own identity? Anybody who's intellectually honest with themselves will agree with me when I said that Technoblade would never agree with this. Let me be clear. I don't believe for a second that Technolarp is an evil guy. I just think that maybe perhaps the clout has gotten to him, because even he said that he intended to delete his whole channel if Technoblade's dad made it clear that he should stop. Smash like and subscribe, or I'm going to roleplay as your girlfriend.